5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 1st, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, will the PS5 Pro keep this generation around for another 6 years? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Timur Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
Will life keep me around for another 6 years?
Oh, I'm skeptical about that for myself.
Yeah, it's looking rough, dog.
Looking rough. But we're here today. At the very least, we're here for another Dregs Day.
We are here.
And I'm happy to be here with you, Tam. We got through this week. I got through Halloween and trick-or-treating with the kids. It was a good time. Did you have to give out any candy?
Hell no. These kids know not to come anywhere near my house.
That's right. You put the Michael Jordan up on the door and say, F them kids?
Yeah, fuck them kids.
Yeah, hell yeah. Go to hell, kids.
No, I live in an apartment building, so no one can get through the front door.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, I had a good time. It was cool to see all the kids dressed up. Not a ton of like surprising video game characters. I didn't see a lot of that stuff. Not that that's a problem. But I was judging them pretty harshly. I don't know.
Is the skeleton still on the chair in your room?
Yes. So some of the skeletons went upstairs yesterday to hand out candy while we were trick-or-treating with our kids. But this one is standing up right here, and he'll get put away here pretty soon. But I like him. He's a good.
Does that mean does the Christmas stuff come out now or no?
Slowly. Like, well, I really like Thanksgiving, so we'll get out like some like fall themed stuff, and then some Thanksgiving stuff here in the next couple of weeks. But I have no problem with getting out the Christmas stuff super early. I like this season a whole bunch, so I'm definitely going to be one of them basic bitches that does that. Yeah, it won't be immediate, but it'll be soon. I definitely got to put away the Halloween stuff because it's all over the yard, and I need to mow the lawn because it was warm for a lot longer than I was expecting. So. Got to do that, but I'm going to Dan's house. So when am I going to do that? I have no idea, Tam. I guess that's a reminder. Extra life this weekend, everybody.
When you going to Dan's house this weekend, right?
So, yeah, I'm leaving here in a little bit. Actually,
you know what's crazy? Dan's never invited me to his house.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, why did he not invite Tam?
It's crazy. He's scared.
He's probably scared, is what it is.
He doesn't want me to come to his house and beat him at Soul Calibur and then beat him at Mario Party.
Yes, you will. You would definitely assert your dominance, and I think he's afraid of that. Yes.
Yeah. I'll come in and all the woodpeckers will just stop. Yeah. The birds will be quiet.
And then his dogs would become your dogs.
Yeah, his dogs would just stop and sit next to me and be like, respecting. The moment I leave, woodpeckers are back. Gunshots are going off outside. Nature has no respect for Dan Reichert.
That's what we've learned absolutely over these years is just complete disrespect for the man. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. Dan's got a whole plan of stuff. He's got a rundown. There's a bunch of incentives. We're raising money for the kids. Start donating now, in fact, because the quicker we get to some of these goals, the quicker we'll get to some really fun stuff.
Is there a link? What's the link?
Sean, I have one in chat. It's like there's a bit.ly link somewhere. I can't remember what it is. I'm afraid of saying the wrong one. So if we see it pop up, I will. I'll repeat it then. But yes, so we'll get in there. Honestly, if you just search Giant Bomb Extra Life, you'll be able to find all the good stuff there. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right.
Hello.
There's that link real quick. bit.ly/GBXL24. GBXL24. That's all lowercase, so don't worry about the case sensitivity. Just put it all in lowercase. All right, let's get started with the morning mess with PlayStation boss wants PS5 Pro to continue 10-year generation cycle. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. After years of rumors, Sony formally announced the PlayStation 5 Pro last month, but not without some hiccups along the way. The $700 price tag has led to some outcry, and the lack of an included disk drive is also unpopular. Regardless, Sony Interactive Entertainment co-CEO Hideaki Nishino has reiterated the company's commitment to both versions of the PS5, as well as a 10-year life cycle for this console generation. While speaking with Variety, Nishino said that he was happy to see that the most engaged gaming users are interested in the PS5 Pro, and shared his belief that new users will grab the PS5 Pro as well. We design everything with having one ahead in our mind, added Nishino. It's not like we just make a next step and we don't know what the two steps ahead are going to be. That's not our way of working, because we need to make sure that the 10-year-old generation cycle continues to be going as well. This is something that they've talked about for a long time, Sony, 10-year life cycles, right? I mean, going back to like the PS2, and it doesn't mean that it'll be 10 years before you get a new hardware. But this hardware will be supported in some way for 10 years. And, they're still making new PS4 games right now, 11 years on from the release of that thing. So they should pretty easily be able to get to this point. And if we're playing on PS5 Pros still in like 4 years, I don't think I'll be complaining. I think the system's going to be plenty powerful enough for quite some time.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's like you said, it's not that they won't have a new piece of hardware in, 10 years. It's like there's going to be a few years of overlap, which is traditionally how it's been done for most console manufacturers. I don't know. I feel like these days a lot of the pace of consoles is also dictated by what's happening in the PC hardware market. And it feels like if there are enough leaps in that space, that it could change how consoles are approached. And it also, like, the knock-on effect of the way that PC hardware changes is how games are developed. And there has been situations where developers are like, we need to move on to this, from this architecture to this new stuff, because it makes our lives 100 times easier. But I think that the quote isn't necessarily unfair, or like doesn't sound like unplausible. Implausible. Yeah, so good for them.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I don't know how much of, like, the PS5 Pro being specifically something that extends the life cycle is putting a lot of pressure on the PS5 Pro, which I think is something they say all the time when a new iteration of the console appears. And I've seen it in the past force expectations to kind of in different directions, where people are now thinking these consoles are capable of much more than they are. And also, like, it makes an assumption that everyone's going to have a PS5 Pro, which isn't necessarily the case. Ultimately, the extension is developers are always going to develop for their baseline PS5 for the most part.
That's right.
And then everything else is bells and whistles. So the kind of the quote in, like, the PS5 Pro helping extend it is only really from a interest and kind of like health of the market,
right,
and somewhat demand,
right,
than anything else.
Right, it keeps he said the most engaged users, and we can get back to that here in a second. But he said the most engaged users; those are the ones that we would be the most likely to get antsy if their things started to feel old. Well, here's an option: just go get that instead, and that keeps you happy. And then it also keeps the average price of a PS5 sold a little bit higher, which is good for, like, what Sony wants. That's one of the reasons they do this. And then it just kind of it churns the market a little bit, right? It makes things feel a little bit fresher and helps them justify keeping this stuff around quite a bit longer. But I think you're right that the idea that the PS5 Pro will dictate the length of the generation or have much of a say on it, it doesn't really jive with the fact that 1 in 5 people that own a PS5 will get a PS5 Pro, will be the one that owns a PS5 Pro. Like they said themselves, that, hey, we are seeing some interest from the most engaged players. That's who this thing is for. It's always been for those. And then it's like, and we think new people are going to buy it too. And that's, historically we saw with the PS4 Pro, the Xbox Series or the Xbox One X, that those didn't sell as well as the baseline consoles alongside them. The baseline consoles that were more affordable were always selling a little bit more in terms of units. Dollar sales, who knows? But in terms of units, they were always selling a little bit more. So even as this generation continues, and the PS5 Pro will maybe be the obvious choice if like there were no other factors other than which one's the best, more people are probably going to still go with the more, the more affordable option. Yeah. So,
and also, like, even with the PS5 Pro out there, Sony is not. It's not a smart strategy to make the older consoles look worse. So,
Yeah.
like we said, they're always gonna be viable.
Yeah, it's now. Do you think that they are good with in terms of like growing PlayStation, attracting new users, new consumers by taking somewhat not lackadaisical, but maximizing the return they get from one generation, or would they benefit from like, hey, jumping forward and having the PS6 ready to go and getting people more excited sooner rather than later? Because I don't really know. I don't think it makes a difference one way or the other.
I think from a economic standpoint, it obviously makes sense for them to take as much time as they can to keep the PlayStation 5 active. But, I mean, the PlayStation 6, I would see no advantage to having it come out until you're 100% certain that the returns on the PlayStation 5 are no longer, where they need to be to keep it a viable option in the kind of from an economic standpoint. They don't need to do that. The only real kind of pushing factor that would force them to do that before they're ready to, before the blood has been drawn from the stone fully, is if their competitors come out with something that
Right.
Could lock up the market while they're still sticking to more drawn out plans.
And that seems
Which is
less
what
likely than ever because people have
Yeah.
their game library on PlayStation already. They're very unlikely to abandon that, even if some new console comes out that is really enticing.
Yeah. I mean, it's unlikely we'll get an Xbox 360 situation again. I feel like that was a once in a lifetime thing.
I think Microsoft and Sony are bound this next generation to sort of uncouple themselves from like launching at the exact same time. But I don't think that makes much of a difference anymore. It's just like, Xbox will be its own thing over there, and PlayStation users who are in that ecosystem will stick with that ecosystem, even if it means waiting 2 more years than the new Xbox. Because the PS5 Pro will still be there. It's like, oh yeah, it's not as good as this new Xbox, but that new Xbox is even more expensive than the PS5 Pro. It's going to be a whole weird thing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when do you think the PS6 is going to come out? But let's get to that after this next story, because this might inform some of that. PlayStation CEO says PS5 Pro was a 5-year project. Development started before PS5 launched. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. PlayStation's co-CEO says development on the PS5 Pro started before the PS5 launched. Sony's console was released on November 19th, 2020. But according to Sony Interactive Entertainment's Platform Business Group CEO Hideaki Nishino, development on its mid-generation upgrade had already started before then. We have done Pro in the last generation, Nishino told Variety. We learned a lot from there. When we were selling PS4 Pro, in addition to the PS4, 20% of the customers actually got the PS4 Pro. It was high-end, it was premium tier, so there was potential users acquiring those kinds of units. Interestingly enough, it was not just about highly engaged users. Actually, new users came to PlayStation to get PS4 Pro as well. So we started working on the PS5 Pro even before PS5 launched. It was another 5-year project for us, so there was a conversation around whether we wanted to do another Pro or not. But the main thing was there are technologies we can grow up in 3 years' time or 5 years' time. So the innovation and technology advancement is quicker in a modern world. Phones are updating every year. PCs are updating every year. I don't think we'd go every year updates, but there are things we can package together to bring the greatest things into the game console segment range. So that's the vision. I guess hearing that they worked on it for 5 years, even before the PS5 was out, that makes sense because it's like they have a hardware team. The hardware team had finished on the PS5. Of course, they're going to start working on the next thing. But still, I don't know, 5 years to get the PS5 Pro out. I guess part of that is market timing. I don't know. What does that make you think?
No, I think a lot of that probably comes, or a significant chunk of it is probably in researching and kind of like building out the PSSR technology.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the huge real feature for the PS5 Pro.
Yeah, it is the AI upscaling that. Again, I'm no big city lawyer, but from what I can tell, people who know this kind of stuff are saying that it's pretty impressive.
That's right.
And it's like it's a good viable option and a good not competitor, but like it fits alongside Nvidia's DLSS stuff. And
it's a secret weapon for the PS5 Pro. It's really going to be. It's going to have like a long-term benefit for that console.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed, and that's probably where a lot of the effort. I mean, I imagine that's what Mark Cerny was waking up and thinking about, and then going to sleep thinking about.
I
He's
think
not
that's
there
right.
like trying to figure out how to get smaller screws into this thing or whatever. But yeah, I suspect that's where a lot of the technology is. You can tell how much effort it took by like how intense the Mark Cerny delivery is on it.
Hmm.
And when they announced that PS5 Pro, he was looking intense. So he worked his ass off on this thing.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I put like 10% of my brain power into
Yes.
this.
I was
You don't
cracking the
want to see
whips.
me go any higher.
No, it'd be bad for all of us. So it would like open a portal in space that would swallow the Earth or something. Yes.
Yeah, and I'll put all open, and just hundreds of thousands of Mark Cerny's would come out of it.
Oh no, the Mark Cerny verse has been unleashed.
Yeah.
5 years. They started it. The year leading up to the release of the PS5. That sounds to me like that could be the way it works for the PS6 as well. So did they start working on the PS6 in this last year, and it takes another 4 years after that? So we're talking 2028 for the next PlayStation. That sounds exactly right to me.
Yeah, I imagine once the PSSR stuff was kind of locked in, like you don't need someone like Cerny again
Right.
being like, move that screw a little to the left,
Right.
or whatever. I guess he would be like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go make a new PlayStation and taking my homeboys with me later. But yeah, I don't doubt that PlayStation 6, kind of specs or like targeted specs and architecture already has been like thoroughly discussed in Mark Cerny's PlayStation,
Yeah.
which is what I'm calling it now.
And I'm like thinking about it and being like, hey, 2028 seems like the right time. It also seems like that's the amount of time they would need based on the recent history. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Like that, the PS5 generation lasting about a full 8 years. At that point, I feel like we will have got our money's worth, because I don't necessarily feel that way in this moment, but I expect in another 4 years' time, I will feel that way.
So they said 10 years in total, right?
A 10-year life cycle of support for the PS5. But again, that definitely means that overlap period that you were mentioning.
Yeah. So it came out in 2020. So they're
2020.
looking hopefully 2030. I think what they do is when they get to 2029, they announce the Bloodborne remake. That gives it another 15 years.
Oh,
so
honey. Oh, sweet boy, sweet child.
Easy.
Yeah, that could happen.
Mark, it makes sense. Do it.
The one thing here, Microsoft could release the next Xbox as early as like 2026. That feels like where they're leaning, because they're not doing a Pro. They're not doing the super more powerful mid-generation refresh. And it seems like the reason they're not doing that is because instead they'll just launch the full new next console in 2026. So that really would uncouple them, and there'd be a 2-year gap potentially. Now, if Xbox does that, maybe that does light a little bit of a fire under Sony, and they don't wait till 2028. Maybe they go in 2027. That's possible. But I mean, at this point, it's hard to imagine a world where Microsoft's maneuvering with hardware has much of an effect on what Sony thinks is best for PlayStation. I think they'll look at it and be like, what's best for us is making the most money from PS5 and then offering something truly next gen for our users when we're ready. So I don't know, but 2026 new Xbox console, 2028 PS6. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I am interested in seeing what Microsoft does. I feel like they now are kind of at a fork in the road. I think they're at a Nintendo-like fork in the road, where they need to figure out what the identity of Xbox is, because it's no longer, its identity is no longer, and this is no kind of assessment of its success or its failures, but I don't think its identity is to be a competitor to PlayStation, and I don't think the PlayStation identity or any part of the identity is to be a competitor to the Xbox. There was a period of time where it was like you could tell that these two companies were trying to were competing for market share. I don't think that's the intent there anymore. I think it's like, what kind of unique ecosystem can we create and almost insulate and make it like so unique that you wouldn't want to escape it, almost like Apple has, right? And I think that's what Nintendo has done in a lot of ways, and especially with the Switch, where it's like no one else is really offering what the Switch has, unless you count all the gaming PC handhelds. But I'm really interested to see what Microsoft does next. I don't think we get a typical, console out of Microsoft next. I do think that they're going to try something different. Like maybe they will create the most powerful, little box that can plug into, a USB style thing or whatever it may be. Or maybe they go in the way of like a handheld or something like that. That has that kind of like home console style function as well. But I am fascinated to see where Microsoft goes. That they are probably the company I'm most interested in seeing what the path ahead for in games.
Yeah, it's definitely something like they've mentioned it right over at Xbox. They've said, hey, we are working on new hardware. We will have more to say. I think they said more to say at the end of this year about something, and then maybe they already did that. Maybe that was something smaller that I'm forgetting about. But they're like, and then we are going to have a next generation console. It will be the biggest leap in power you've ever seen. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. That's a weird thing to promise, but what does that make you think that this next system could be? Because I agree with you that the Nintendo fork in the road is probably what they should be considering, but then promising the biggest graphical leap ever is maybe not the answer I was hoping to hear.
Yeah, I mean that could be one part of it. They are the company that has most aligned their current system with a PC architecture or PC like device. Like the Xbox Series X, it is a little PC in a box. Like if they made that a little bit bigger, they can start putting in like graphics cards that are more chunky and more powerful and follow on down that path. But honestly, like I am not anywhere near ready to consider what the next Xbox is, because I just don't feel like I've got anything out of my current Xbox.
Definitely not.
At least like as someone who has every console, even with Game Pass, I barely play anything on my Xbox, which makes me so sad because I really love that console. Like it's so nice and slick and like it's enjoyable to play on. But I played like the last thing I played was Heavenly Sword. What was it called again? Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2, and like I wasn't that impressed by that game. And like what has there been since? Like the last time, if I close my eyes and think really hard, that I had fun, like a lot of fun playing on Xbox, probably Halo Infinite or Hi-Fi Rush, probably. And the fact that there's been nothing since is like really frustrating. I don't want to buy. I think I would be a little sour about buying a new console with an Xbox logo on it if this is how the kind of like tone of the Xbox remains for the rest of its lifetime. I don't think it will. They've got a new Indiana Jones. Sure. Yeah, they'll have like Blade and that kind of stuff at some point. They've got games coming, but it just feels like I really want to turn on my Xbox, but I have no reason to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is going to be the biggest challenge that they face, is that that sentiment of do I feel excited about my Xbox now, and will that carry over? And I think a lot of that's missing. And then they can't necessarily rely on getting people excited about promises of the future, because improved graphics at this point don't mean a whole lot. We know developers are not going to take huge advantages of that, because they are bound by time and money now, and not by the graphics that are inside of these boxes anymore, for the most part, for the vast majority of developers. And so it's like, okay, you give me a more powerful box that I'm only going to maybe notice some incremental differences here or there. We could talk about, 1440p versus 4K. But I'm not really noticing that difference all that much. And even when it's like I can notice a difference, it's minuscule. So, like they just don't have a lot of obvious, and this has been the problem with the PS5 Pro a little bit, where there's not like an obvious marketing beat, but like going to promising a more powerful console, a super more powerful console, the biggest leap ever for a console, that is something that doesn't feel like it's going to ring home to most people.
Did they announce the new Gears, or am I imagining that?
They did. They did announce. Did they announce it? I think they announced it. Yes. Yes. Emergence Day. Right. E-Day.
E-Day. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And that looked really good, actually. So, and that's
how did I just completely forgot about that.
It looks pretty good. That's Unreal Engine 5. That's the coalition working on Unreal Engine 5 and showing like stretching their legs, and yeah, it looked really promising. So there's that. There's Perfect Dark. There's Fable, Avowed, Indiana Jones coming up soon. They have big games. We just got. I mean, some of these things got to hit. And really, though, that is just kind of paying off the debt of getting people excited about the Xbox Series consoles. No one's going to want to be thinking about a next Xbox console, even after many of those games hit for quite some time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last PlayStation story here before we get to a break. PlayStation executive defends layoffs, says they were necessary to run a business. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. It's been tough times of late at Sony Interactive Entertainment, as the PlayStation company began the year by cutting 900 plus jobs and canceling games. In July, Sony axed a number of positions from its Destiny studio, Bungie, and announced a reorganization effort there. Then, in August, Sony's Firewalk team launched a multiplayer first-person shooter called Concord, only to close it quickly and offer refunds, before the studio itself shut down for good after reportedly spending $200 million plus on the game. In an interview with Variety, SIE co-CEO Herman Holst reacted to these dramatic moves, saying they all took place as part of the company's effort to run a sustainable business. I will say a few things on that. It's our duty to look at our resource planning and make sure that we run a sustainable business. That's part of being CEO. We never take that lightly because we know these people personally, and it's very close to our hearts and the teams and good working atmospheres. But yes, we've had some layoffs. Holst went on to say that the PlayStation Studios division is actually much greater today in terms of employment numbers than it was 5 years ago. It's grown tremendously, and that is organic growth that our existing that's at our existing teams, and that our existing teams, I think, hired quite aggressively, as well as through mergers and acquisitions, he said. Holst's defense of Sony's major cuts sounds similar to what Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer said about Xbox's own dramatic business shifts that included 2,500 plus layoffs. Yeah, I mean, we got to do they say we got to run a sustainable business. We hear that always as if it's this stuff just snuck up on them, and it was.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing. It's like suddenly they're, oh wait, we have to run a sustainable business. It's like you have to run a sustainable business always. Why didn't you think about that when you were like recklessly chasing growth?
Yes, recklessly chasing growth. Yes, through acquisitions, but also all these companies were hiring like crazy right after the pandemic because they just thought that line that was going up and to the right was going to keep going up and to the right. And it's like, did none of you stop to like just get a little sober? Just like sober up after getting drunk from the pandemic? Come on.
Hey, I mean, like it's a fundamental symptom of capitalism. It like breeds foolishness and greed, and that is exactly what every single company goes through. They see a little bit of growth, and it's extremely rare for a company to look around and go, we're doing good, let's take a step back, chill out, and try and make sure that we stay this way for a prolonged period of time and look after each other. That's not how it works. It is always chase more money, always chase higher numbers, always make sure the graph goes up. Because ultimately, there's a few people at the top that will benefit from that. And once they hit that goal, they can peace out and they're fine. They're untouchable. That's it. That's the whole point. Like, be a person. If you're at the top, you need to reach a point where you're untouchable because you've got the money that you need. And then the rest of it does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is what everyone did during the pandemic. And it's what everyone is constantly doing. And it's why people who work the hardest and have no say or kind of even benefit from that are the ones impacted on a day-to-day basis. The lives of the rank and file mean nothing to the people who are making these decisions up there.
Yep.
And so like every time a company comes along and is like, we need to do better about our business, it's like, motherfucker, you need to do better. You're the one who caused this. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
Like, don't come to us and be like, together as a company, as a team, we need to be better. No, you need to be better, Mr. Sony. Relax. You're the one who chased all this shit.
Yep. And you're the ones that would reap the rewards when when you do see that growth, whether it's organic or through acquisitions. If the number is bigger this year than it was last year, through whatever means necessary, through exploiting workers, through hiring a bunch of new workers so they can make a ton of new stuff, even if it might not work out great in the long run. In the immediate term, when there's big returns on stock price and you can cash that stuff in, you're the one that gets the vast majority of the rewards. And in the meantime, everyone else has to worry, like, when things turn slightly and all that money's still in your bank account, or you still have all those assets in the stock market. Now we got to start worrying about us just losing our jobs. So,
yeah. I mean, like a lot of things in the tech sector, and I'm just like filing games under the tech sector, but like even in game development, like there's no such things. It's rare that you have a humble beginning story anymore in these kind of in these kind of industries where, you know, a piece of technology or a game starts off being really small. You know, like I think of it as the Guitar Hero way, where it's like Guitar Hero. The only time I heard of it was when like Jeff Gersman was talking about Kensha Hall on old like podcasts, and I was like, that sounds crazy. But that's how that thing started, and then it became like a global sensation. You don't get that anymore. You have people who think they have an idea, and then they just throw everything at it.
Yep.
And instead of like, because there's no patience anymore, you don't build up to that thing, and it sinks ships so quickly. The place that is happening is like outside of major game development kind of corners, in like early access and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You think about
And
developers that are. That's why also why like whenever I see companies doing early access, like a Ubisoft or whatever, I'm just like, I know why you're doing this. It's disingenuous. It's not because you have a little small bean that you want to water for a few years and try and make it into something cool. It's because you want to get like marketing and you want money early, and you're using this as a tool to try and generate more revenue.
Yeah.
And I wish it wasn't so transparently obvious. Like there's a difference between when, you know, Supergiant does early access and like in a Activision, EA, Sony, not Sony doesn't really do it, but like major publishers do like early access.
Yeah.
You just want money up front. You want to try and lock people in, because if they pay for it immediately, you can have them basically be on the journey and they feel committed. It's like a subscription fee basically. And then you want free QA testing, essentially. Like, what the...
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it is like everything in capitalism. It's manipulation, without a doubt, for sure. I find I don't begrudge a lot of these studios being like, if we can get away with doing early access, we should do early access because it does benefit some of these games. But none of the things you just diagnosed there were incorrect. You're absolutely right. The thing I always find interesting is like you're right about early access on Steam being like where a lot of interesting ideas can still happen. But isn't that just such the other side of the coin of capitalism, where it's like Steam opened themselves up and just like, we're not your boss. We can help you make money, but bring all your stuff to us, and it can happen in our ecosystem. And now you're like struggling and striving and putting your best ideas forward. And if they work, we get a lot of money. And if they don't work, well, good luck with the rest of your life. You put your time, money, and effort in here, and it didn't pay off. Well, that's just the way it goes, but we're not your boss. But really, of course, they are, right? It's just this inverted structure. It's the same thing with YouTube, right? YouTube is like, we're not your boss. We're just going to offer a platform for anybody to create anything. But if you make a lot of money, we make a lot of money. And it's like, oh man, there's just nowhere to turn to escape this stuff. It really is just everywhere.
My general rule of thumb, to go back to this, is the people that are telling you that they need to do this to solve the problem are usually the problem.
Yes.
Or they represent the problem.
Yep.
And there's people usually above them, almost always, that you never hear of. You don't know who they are, that are benefiting. Like people, you know, Firewalk is gone. Do any of the executives that made any of the decisions above the team in that studio at PlayStation or wherever that made the decisions that led to the failure of Firewalk to have are they impacted in any way? 100% not. No chance.
Yep.
There's no way like someone took a pay cut, someone got fired, like someone, you know, took responsibility for this. No, it's just the people at Firewalk that suffered because of this.
Yep. And it's you know, I've said it before. I'll always say, you know, Jim Ryan saw this coming and got out well. The Gitman was good, and he, you know, took a victory lap from very successful several years for PlayStation and growth in PlayStation, and then set up a future that was questionable. And now here we are, and he's off in you know Mallorca taking a vacation. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we got more to talk about, including a bonkers day for Black Ops 6 right after this. All right, right back into it. Black Ops 6 spiked Call of Duty to a bonkers day on Xbox. This is from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. The debut of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on Game Pass seemingly had a noticeable effect on engagement on Xbox, while the PS5 edition of the game saw a big jump as well in terms of active users. According to Circana analyst Matt Piscatella, the Call of Duty HQ app, which includes Black Ops 6, Warzone, and Modern Warfare 3, was played by 52% of active Xbox Series X and S users and 34% of active PS5 players on October 28th. That compares to 19% and 18% on October 23rd for Xbox and PlayStation, respectively. The 52% for Xbox and 34% for PlayStation figures represented all-time highs for Call of Duty HQ, according to Piscatella, who was citing Circana's own player engagement tracker. The previous highs for U.S. daily active player engagement for Call of Duty HQ on Xbox Series X and S was 34% on August 31st, 2024, and 27% for PS5 on September 7th, 2024. What does this all mean? Piscatella wants to see more data before drawing conclusions, but for now, he said it supports the idea that Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass very likely helped improve engagement results on Xbox, while also not significantly detracting engagement statistics on other platforms. Still early, need more data, Piscatella said. I think this is an experiment for, can Game Pass continue to coexist alongside releasing games, in the marketplace? This clearly proves that is the case. But do you think it's because this is Black Ops? And
1,000,000%.
Yes.
I think that, I fully expect it, but I think if anyone is in like the Xbox, building, being like, hey, we did it, applause, we're gonna be good. No, dog, no. This is like a rare situation. Like, I don't think there's gonna be another game that is gonna be able to do what this does. And also, don't forget, like, there's gonna be a precipitous drop off at some point. Like, people aren't gonna keep. This level of engagement isn't going to stay there forever.
At the very least, this justifies the $69 billion spent on Activision. I think like Call of Duty was worth the money you spent on it. Like, this is the money you're going to make from this is going to more than pay the bills for like paying off that huge chunk of change. But
what I fear is going to happen.
Yeah.
What I fear is going to happen is honestly, like, you can compare it to the way the SEO works in stuff that we do, or any website where. There was a time when SEO, it still does, but it was even more like dictating anything that was made. And the way it happened was you'd write an article or you'd publish a video, and if that thing did well, you'd have the SEO team be like, make nothing but that and make it fast.
Yeah.
So if anything, my worry is now Microsoft is going to look at Activision and be like, more Call of Duties quicker.
Yes.
Because they think that the only thing that is really going to kind of impact the bottom line is going to be more Call of Duty, because it's happened once. So I am both happy for them. Good job, you made a good game. Like the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is pretty good. But also I'm like, they're not going to learn a lesson. That's not how this industry works. So it's not like how corporations like that work. I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting mid-year Call of Duties now.
Yep.
It's going to be crazy, and I don't know. Like, I fear for what could become of. Actually, I don't fear for what could become of Call of Duty. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick in chat, people are like, this is not going to cover the $69 billion. That's not how it works.
No.
The $69 billion exists in a bank account. $69 billion gets invested into a development studio or a bunch of acquisitions. How much money does each of those things generate? $69 billion sitting in a bank account generates so much in interest. $69 billion put into Call of Duty King and all this other stuff generates so much revenue. This revenue is significantly more than the amount of interest you would make from $69 billion in the bank. That's how big companies look at it, because that $69 billion doesn't mean anything to them because it was just sitting in the bank account. They were like, how can we use this to make more money? This is making way more money. So that's what I mean when I say it covers it. You can't just think that they're going to pay the $69 billion bill, because that's just not how it works for them. It's an asset. And when it's now, and when it was sitting in a bank account, it was a risk. It was not, they don't think about it in any other way. It's not like we're going to go do some of this money. If we're going to do some of this money, we're going to use it to make more money. And that's clearly what has happened here. That's without question working. Now, as far as the question that we were really talking about, does this change the calculus on like how Game Pass is working and all this other stuff? I think we are in agreement, Tam, that this is Call Call of Duty and really but Black Ops 6, because I think this is any other Call of Duty, even at this point in Modern Warfare, it's not going to have the same effect because Black Ops just seems to have this huge, massive appeal that can't be understated.
Yeah, I mean, like if a new Call of Duty comes out and it's asked people carry on playing Black Ops, like that is how it is now. Like I feel like people are less willing to move on entirely and just accept that the new thing is the new thing, because the communities can form around all the games. I definitely have anecdotally known loads of people who have played the new Call of Duty of that year and been like, I don't like this, and then just going like, I'm going to carry on playing the older one and carry on playing that. So yeah, it is very much this game. Black Ops is beloved as a branch of the Call of Duty franchise, and it is also like very good. So yeah.
Yep, I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
I think first person shooter franchise developers are cowards, and they need to start doing crossovers. Like do what Capcom did with Marvel vs. Capcom. Let's have Call of Duty versus Battlefield. Finally, Halo versus Metro.
I want to see that Call of Duty versus Battlefield, and then I want the post-credits scene to be the tier 1 operators from that Medal of Honor game. Like,
oh yes,
we're coming,
yes.
And everyone's like, "Who are you?"
Just like a man with a really big beard,
just
looks like
beard.
The stinkiest human being ever, comes out and is like,
right,
you thought I was dead. And everyone's like, who are you?
Clearly a guy that owns a Ford F-150, but he thinks he can pass when he's in Arab countries. He's like, no one can tell I got a beard. Yeah.
You can see like on the front of his tactical pouch, one of them is just open, and you can just see like the end of a beef jerky packet. And you're like, I know who that is.
Yep, that's a tier 1 operator right there. Jesus, these fucking guys. All right, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe toys have come to McDonald's Happy Meals. This is from Nintendo Everything. Nintendo has teamed up with McDonald's a number of times previously, and that's the case once again with the new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe toys and Happy Meals. Mostly bringing this up, Tam, because this game is 10 years old, maybe longer. It might be older than that now, 10 or 11 years old, and they're still getting McDonald's toys for this thing. Are we ever going to get a real new Mario Kart?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I think the new Mario Kart will be a launch title for the next console.
I hope so.
That is how you turn that thing into an immediate success and keep it going for that time.
Right, you have that. If you have a new Mario Party pretty soon after that, and then families just will not be able to ignore the thing. Right, that's what's happened with the Switch. Is families just keep adopting it, and they just keep buying Mario Kart, and they keep buying whatever Mario Party is on the shelf in front of them. God, I think Mario Party Superstars, the second of the 3 that are on Switch, is also like approaching 20 million copies sold or something crazy like that. It's bananas.
So what are these things?
They're just like little cart toys that come in the Happy
I'm looking
Meals.
at them.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're whatever, but it's like, man,
I'm not liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I don't think they're not too. I don't know. There were back in the day, when I was a kid, they got the little Mario toys in the Happy Meal. There was a Goomba, or no, there was a raccoon Mario, and I think you could like, you would bend him down, and there was a suction cup on the front of him, and it would like latch onto his feet, and then the suction cup would slowly give out, and then the spring would pop, and he would do like a flip. I think that's right. The spring-loaded one, and that was really fun and cool. And they don't really have stuff like that anymore, because that was like real plastic, and now they have this like super cheap plastic that's almost certainly extremely carcinogenic. So. Yeah.
Happy Meals are just for kids, right?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to judge you if you get a Happy Meal.
No, as in like there's no like what are the options in a Happy Meal?
There is you can get a hamburger / cheeseburger, or you can get a 4-piece or 6-piece chicken nugget.
Damn, they don't have a non-haram option?
No. It's
Christ.
McDonald's. They
I'm going to go in
I'm going to go haram.
I'm going to go into a McDonald's and I'm going to ask for a Happy Meal with one of these. And then once they give it to me, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to look the person who gave it to me in the eyes and say, throw this in the bin because I cannot eat it. And tell your CEO I said, get fucked.
What could you eat at McDonald's?
I don't know. A fillet of fish? Chuck a fillet of fish in there. I'll have a fillet of fish. I love fillet of fish.
Yeah, fillet of fish is a good move. All right.
No, it's like no browns allowed, please. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. This is probably the last hurrah for Mario Kart 8 toys of any sort.
Oh, I thought you were going to say for McDonald's. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, they're done. They're cooked. All right, let's hit this last couple stories here. Come on, where are the composer credits in Nintendo Music? This is from Jim Norman and Nintendo Life, who basically just covers what a lot of people have noticed since the Nintendo Music app has come out. That this thing's a pretty well, it's an app that is fully featured. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it in terms of the way it works. It doesn't have a ton of the music library that Nintendo could potentially put in there. It started with like 22 albums. The next day they did release Super Mario Brothers Wonder as the newest album in there, whatever. But the crediting is almost completely absent. Like if you like try to like go into a track and like click on the show me more or whatever, it has copyright information and it says Nintendo owns all this stuff, but it doesn't mention who composed the music originally, who's performing it, anything like that, which is, if this were to go out on Spotify, if Nintendo were to upload all their stuff on Spotify, that it would be subject to those rules of like the recording industry of America, whatever that is. But Nintendo kind of doing it off on their own. They maybe are skirting those rules. I don't know. Potentially, I think if you have a music app and you're selling it to people in the United States, you should have to obey those rules, but you probably don't. There's probably no legal force to force them to do that. Either way, it sucks. Nintendo should fix this.
Also, it's kind of like, apologies if I'm speaking out of turn. As far as I understand it, like that kind of specificity when it comes to, things being created in Japan it was rare, and it still kind of is. It is changing, right. but there's not a culture of saying this is the person that made this. It kind of just gets attributed to Team 2 or whatever it may be, Nintendo, yes. R&D division, whatever. So I think this is a relatively new kind of demand. And as we all know, Nintendo is, at least on that side of the world, they're just like oblivious to whatever's going on that, could make them look better and kind of, get a bit more in line with the time. So I imagine they would probably just be like, no, we're good. We'll just keep it as it is and then move on.
Definitely what they've been doing for a long time is the reason that they haven't released albums in the United States, according to some analysts, is that if you were to release the album for something, first, you would have to credit everybody. But second, then that would open you up to some legal obligation to permit covers of your songs. And so Nintendo just releases their stuff in Japan where the rules are different and you don't have to permit that stuff. So for the most part, they're just like, whatever, we're not even going to sell this stuff to you. So the fact that they have this app now, it's like, does this change anything? It doesn't seem like it's changing much in terms of how Nintendo wants to approach this stuff at the very least.
You know what they do have, though?
Wii Shop music.
You know what the best part of this is? What? If you're playing the Wii Shop music and you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a little button that says Extend to.
Yeah.
You hit that and you can select 60 minutes.
Yep. And it just automatically does it. It's not a different song or a different upload. It just automatically goes to 60 minutes. Do you think they eventually had a 10-hour option?
I hope so.
To me, that's like the...
I feel like there needs to be a Game of the Year category this week, which is this year called like Extend 60.
Yeah.
And we should call the music category the Extend 60 category. Yeah. Extend 60 Music Award. What song would you extend for 60 minutes?
Yeah, what's the most extendable song of the year? Yes,
yeah, because
absolutely.
I don't know, it feels like that is going to win.
Yeah, that's I do like the app because stuff like that. Did you when you downloaded the app? Did you see that spoiler warning when you open the app? Like,
no, it was spoiler warning.
There's when it's like we have a feature so that will like prevent you from seeing certain songs that have certain screenshots that might spoil the game if you want to like click into that. And so it's like watch out for spoilers. And I'm just like, we have gone too far as a society.
Crazy.
We have lost our way. We're being coddled, and this is going to be my participation award, like old man rant stuff. This is going to be my thing. We're being too protected from spoilers if we now get spoiler warnings in our music apps.
Oh, let's go! Look at this. You know you love this one. You love this one, don't you?
Absolutely. I didn't know it was in there.
What can you tell me, Grubb? What can you tell me?
I can tell you that Tommy Tallarico worked hand in hand with Shigeru Miyamoto to make Metroid Prime when he made this music.
I think
his mother's very proud of him.
I think Tommy Tallarico's mother is lying.
Oof. All right. Let's see here. Cheaters cause Apex Legends to abandon the Steam Deck. This is from Malcolm Poole at Dual Shockers. Nobody likes cheaters in their games. EA and Respawn are even less fond of them. Cheating in Apex Legends has been a problem before. You may recall a major incident during a regional tournament that made waves online through sheer absurdity. In a recent blog post, EA notified customers of their latest steps in the war against cheating. All Linux systems, including the Steam Deck, are officially barred from accessing the game.
Fucking Linux people, man. They cannot just behave themselves.
Well, it's like, I think the anti-cheat software on Linux just doesn't function the way it needs to. So it's way easier to cheat on Linux. And so the cheaters are just like they are getting Steam Decks, or they're installing Steam OS somewhere and they're playing some of these games and they're cheating that way. And boy, they are just ruining it for everybody. I would love to have all these multiplayer games work on my Steam Deck, but like Destiny, or like Bungie said, we're never going to put that shit on Steam Deck because we know you cheaters will do this. So we're never going to do the work in the first place. And it's like, we can't have nice things.
I just don't understand the thinking behind the cheating in online games.
It's so
like especially in this day and age. Like back in the day when it was like CS 1.4 or 5 or 6 and someone was cheating, you'd be like, is that person? Yeah, like you could get away with. You could convince a few people that you weren't cheating, but you were just really good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, the moment you do something like, people are like, this motherfucker's cheating. I looked at the kill cam. This person is snapping from one. He's shooting through walls. Why even do that? Like you're not even tricking anyone. You're just immediately like trying to avoid bans. It's just like, what are you doing, man?
It's just massive loser behavior. It is so
huge loser behavior.
I think it's the reason we need the word pathetic, because it is just so incredibly pathetic.
And you're cheating at an online video game. Like the moment you shut that down, you're still going to be a miserable shit that no one cares about.
Right, because you can't be proud of yourself. You might be entertaining yourself because you're griefing people. Sure, I get that, but you're not proud of yourself. You can't go show this to your mama and say, look how good I did. Like and the people online know you're cheating, so they're just going to hate. Like it's just about griefing. That's all. And I get that griefing. Some people find that very fun, especially if you're young and immature. But again, that's pathetic and loser behavior.
Yeah, you cheated. Not only the game, but like yourself.
But
you didn't grow, you didn't improve, you took a shortcut and gained nothing. You experienced a hollow victory. Like nothing was risked and nothing was gained. And it's just sad that you don't know the difference.
You see those Yankees fans rip the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove?
That dude needs to be like brought onto the field and publicly shamed.
Yes, there should be like tar and feather, maybe even whipped a little bit. Like corporal punishment. Absolutely. It is. That was. I feel the way about them that I do about cheaters in video games. Just hate these guys. All right, last story here. Hironobu Sakaguchi and Nobuo Umatsu, excuse me.
I love it when you do Japanese names.
I know.
It makes me feel so good.
I'm gonna like get this one. It's like, nope, lost it, and we're just gonna
fall
off
it
the rails.
Because like you are clearly trying. You're trying.
I'm trying.
You just want to be so respectful.
I want to be respectful. Yeah, I want to get people's names right.
Most of the time you get it. I respect it.
And then when I mess it up, I mess it up pretty bad. But hey, we're gonna keep trying. Nintendo news, Sakaguchi, who is the head of Mistwalker and the Gooch, who's the main creator behind Final Fantasy, has revealed that he is once again teaming up with famed JRPG composer Umatsu for a brand new game. The game, which has yet to be named, is described as a dark fantasy game. It is not clear what the new game is, though it could well be a sequel to the upcoming Fantasian Neo Dimension. Mistwalker recently filed a new trademark for something called Fantasian Dark Edge. Fantasian Neo Dimension it launches on Nintendo Switch in December.
Oh. Do you think? Firstly, what is a JRPG? What do you think a G? I know it was a misspeak, but like, what could a G? Is it a German?
It's got to be German, right? Yeah, I would love to play a German RPG. Yeah, God.
Isn't that like what would be a G? Is there a game right now that's like a German RPG? I want to say Frostpunk, but I don't think Frostpunk is German.
It's not quite an RPG, right? So it's like, but it's what's that medieval game? That's not from Germany. That's from like Poland or something. But it's pretty close. A PRPG, you know?
Yeah.
Could it?
I think we need more JRPGs.
Yeah, could we get a gangster RPG maybe in there?
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's that San Andreas.
Yeah, why hasn't there been like a turn-based like Wu-Tang Clan game yet? What's going on, man?
I mean, I had reported a long time ago, but there was a Wu-Tang game that was going to be an action RPG, and I think the different classes were going to be the different members of the Wu-Tang Clan. How awesome would that be? That man, I hope that comes out someday.
Imagine if it has. Oh my god! Imagine if Platinum Games made a Wu-Tang action game.
Yeah, that's perfect. I would eat that up. That would rule.
I would fucking cry.
RZA just doing the soundtrack, like the
yes, 100%. Get RZA in there doing the soundtrack. Oh my god.
Yep, that would be fantastic. And that's the Wu-Tang group for Mike Minotti. That's the Wu-Tong group, as he eloquently puts it. All right, let's get to the poll question from yesterday. Listen, I didn't choose this. The YouTube just went here automatically, so don't judge me when you see what's on the screen. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 artwork there. All right, there we go. Let's refresh.
Oh, hello.
Actually, and here's I had this for a long time. The Filipino Keyblade, Jan. I don't know. I think it's a funny joke, so I don't want to.
Filipino Keyblade is so good.
Yep. All right. Are you going to use Nintendo Music? I have to say yes because I have used it. And 30% of people also said yes. 70% said no. I don't know why your face is half off, but you look very dramatic there. I'll fix that in a second.
I'll fix it.
Okay, there he goes, everybody. Yeah, perfect. There you go. Get in real close. Nintendo Music is just a weird little extra that I'll probably forget about in a month. Yeah, there he is. Just look into our souls. We got a new poll question we're going to get to here in a second. Before we do that, though, Timur Hussein, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff.
You can find me real up close. Like this, up close. Can you look how tired I look, man?
Oh yeah, man, right there with you. I'm like,
it's been a week. Let me tell you. You can find me on Twitter at Timur Hage. You can find me on Threads. I'm trying to lean into Threads more.
You going to Threads?
If you're here, I wanna. It feels less shitty over there. You know what I mean? I know it still is.
I ask because I'm going to Blue Sky. I'm leaning towards Blue Sky because Threads. I just don't jive with most of the people on Threads. They're the Instagram people, and they don't appreciate shit posting the way I need to be appreciated. So
yeah, I feel like Blue Sky is a good option, but also like it feels so janky still.
Yeah. It's definitely like,
you know what I mean,
cheap and duct taped together. But the vibes are getting there where it's like, I want to use Blue Sky because the people I want to interact with are using Blue Sky, and that's the real feature that matters to me. So
here's the thing, right? I respect this, but everyone who's watching this, just go follow me on Threads anyway.
Yeah.
Just juice my numbers
at the very least. Threads seems like the one that's going to be the most viable in terms of like being a real platform with real like financial gain and stuff like that. Like
exactly.
It's like the real one. But whatever. I mean, I'm used to
I am on Blue Sky. Like, let me I haven't posted in a while. The last thing I posted was a update that is trying to reconnect with Twitter mutuals on Blue Sky, and it's Gohan and Goku doing the father son Kamehameha.
Hell yeah.
Which I think is pretty good.
That's beautiful. Deck.blue. Is this a Blue Sky like tweet deck sort of thing? All right, I'll try that. Okay.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah,
Decks out for the leads.
Let's get the most out of Blueski. All right, fair enough. I know most people don't care about these social media platforms, so we'll wrap that up. Okay, new poll question. What did I write here? Let's see what I said. Oh, yeah. I was just dragon
One
fight.
of these days, when you do a poll question, you need to make it a Polish question.
Oh, yes, you're right. We've missed out on an opportunity to do that. We'll make that next time.
For the Polish homies out there.
Dragon Fight, pick one. Dragon Age the Veilguard, Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. Now's your time to pick a side. Finally, we are forcing people to fight over things you don't need to fight over. We're the first ones to do that on the internet, so go ahead and make that happen. Okay, Tam, I think we are good to get out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I just want everyone to know that it's very important, and they need to keep this in mind for the rest of the weekend. I have a tummy ache.
I hope I don't get a tummy ache at Dan's house again. That was
just don't eat anything. Don't touch any surfaces.
Yeah.
Put yourself in like a straight up jumpsuit.
I could go Bubble Boy. Yeah.
Yeah, go Bubble Boy, and that's the only way. I'm not. This is not an indictment of Dan or his living situation. I'm just saying, like, who knows what could get you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mike Minotti will be there, so yeah, just. carrying
100%.
seasons.
Yeah.
For people that are wondering, once again, I'm going to be at Dan's house for Extra Life. It starts tomorrow, midday. We'll be streaming it to giantbomb.com. He did post a picture on Instagram of his 3 Seasons room where it's going to be very cold. And the only warmth will come from a television that will be playing, it seems like, the movie Noobs. And
oh my God.
And I think if you guys give enough money, you can choose who gets sent to the Noobs room, and they don't get a phone. They have to watch the movie. They can't do anything else, and they have to just sit there and absorb it. So that's
you
like
should have like a subcategory which is like you can pay money to increase the volume by 1.
Okay, I'll pass that on to
Yeah.
Dan. That's a good idea. There are a lot of incentives, like things like, Mario Party could happen.
Okay.
Someone could get a haircut. Things are going to happen.
As a community, we've achieved many things together.
Yes, we have.
We need to come together to make sure that Dan is put in the Noobs room.
I think this is. I think you're right. People are gonna want to do it to Mike. I think, but I think it's even funnier if we do it to Dan.
It's funnier if we give it to Dan.
It's funnier if we do it to Dan. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta make sure like it gets like locked into it so you can't like escape it.
Yeah.
But yes, that would be the funniest. But just tune in. It's going to be a riot. It's going to be a good time. We're going to go as long as people kind of keep giving us money to extend our incentives and our stretch goals and all that. So really looking forward to it. I'm going to go get on a plane here in a couple hours. So I'll be there tonight. In the meantime, though, Tam, thank you once again. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.